Welcome, seeker, traveler of the modern age. How many times have you whispered to yourself, I am broken? How many nights have you sat beneath the silent stars, believing you were less than what you were meant to be? But what if I told you, you are not broken at all? What if the truth is simpler, colder, and far more dangerous? You are simply walking the wrong path. Tonight we will dissect this illusion, this great deception that chains powerful minds into quiet despair. And by the end, you shall see that the flaw was never in you, but in the direction you were told to follow. There is a deception that rules the hearts of modern men, a cruel whisper that seeps into their minds when they are most vulnerable. It tells them they are broken. It tells them that something within them has shattered beyond repair, that their failures are proof of their defect, that their confusion is a sign of weakness. This, my friend, is one of the most dangerous illusions ever crafted, the illusion of brokenness. And make no mistake, it is not born from your soul, but from a system that thrives when you doubt yourself. You see, throughout history, rulers, priests, and merchants have learned one universal law: a man who believes he is broken is easier to command than one who believes he is merely misdirected. A broken man seeks a savior. A misdirected one seeks truth. The former surrenders power, the latter claims it. And so, the illusion was created, not to destroy you, but to keep you obedient. When a mind is convinced it is flawed, it ceases to question the path it walks. It kneels before authority, thinking perhaps someone else holds the cure. The illusion of brokenness is not a wound, it is a leash. It convinces you that your discomfort, your dissatisfaction, your longing for something more, is a personal defect rather than a natural reaction to a false life. And in doing so, it blinds you from the simplest truth, that your pain might not be proof of weakness, but rather evidence that your soul resists the path it never chose. Tell me, have you ever wondered why the moments of greatest despair arrive not when you are defeated, but when you feel trapped? It is because your essence knows the difference between a struggle of growth and a struggle of deception. The first refines you, the second corrodes you, yet the world will call both normal. It will hand you remedies, distractions, philosophies of false peace, and none will work because none address the real cause. You are not broken. You are misaligned. You are chasing shadows when your light is meant to burn elsewhere. Imagine a man who was born to be a creator, forced into a life of repetition. Each day he feels a heaviness, a sense of failure as though his spirit is decaying. He tells himself, I am not good enough. I am broken. But is he truly broken? Or is he merely living a life that was never his? Imagine a woman with the mind of a philosopher, confined to silence because the world fears her voice. She doubts her worth. She cries at night. But is she damaged? Or is she suffocating beneath the weight of a world too afraid of her truth? The illusion of brokenness is powerful because it attacks from within. It makes you your own jailer. It convinces you that your cage is home, and the open door beyond it is danger. Every time you say, I am not enough, you strengthen the bars that hold you. Every time you compare yourself to another, you forge another chain around your potential. But if you look deeper, you will see that your so-called brokenness has always been a compass, a divine rebellion within you, pointing away from the false and toward the true. The human spirit does not break easily. It bends, it adapts, it disguises itself in order to survive. Even when you think you have fallen apart, you are merely reshaping to escape confinement. Your confusion, your exhaustion, your lostness, these are not symptoms of weakness, but the consequences of walking a road that does not belong to you. The body falls ill when fed poison, the soul aches when fed lies. And yet, society will tell you to heal. They will tell you to mend yourself, to fix what they themselves have fractured. But what if you do not need to be healed? What if you need only to turn around? What if your pain is not asking for medicine, but for direction? This is the truth few dare to face. That most of our suffering does not come from being broken, but from betraying our own design. When you were born, you were whole. You possessed instinct, curiosity, courage, the same elements that built empires and moved the stars of history. Then came the conditioning: what to value, what to fear, what to chase. You were taught to measure your worth by foreign scales, to seek validation from voices that never knew your name. And in that moment, you began to forget. You began to trade your nature for approval, your curiosity for certainty, your freedom for comfort. The result was not brokenness. It was separation. You became divided from your essence, from the part of you that remembers what you were meant to do. The sadness that followed was not a defect, but a signal. It was the fire alarm of your soul, warning you that the path ahead leads only to decay. You are not a shattered object to be glued back together. You are a traveler who has wandered too long in another man's kingdom. The illusion of brokenness keeps you there, bowing to false kings, apologizing for your own potential. But deep inside, something resists. A silent whisper that says, "These cannot be all there is." And that whisper, though faint, is the beginning of truth. It is not weakness to feel lost. It is awareness. It is the moment before awakening, the instant before a prince realizes he has been living as a servant in his own land. The illusion of brokenness will tell you to sit still, to wait for rescue. But your soul will urge you to stand, to walk, to question. And in that questioning, you begin to reclaim what was never lost, only forgotten. Every downfall begins not in chaos, but in obedience. The wrong path does not announce itself as destruction. It disguises itself as virtue, as security, as what everyone else is doing. You do not wake up one morning and decide to lose yourself. No. You are led there gently, by invisible hands that shape your desires before you ever have the chance to question them. The path you walk was not always chosen by you. Long before you could reason, others began designing it. Parents, teachers, rulers, merchants, preachers. Each with their own motives, each believing they were guiding you toward what was right. But the truth is, most of them were only passing down what was handed to them. Unexamined beliefs, secondhand dreams, the tired blueprints of generations too afraid to step off the familiar road, and so you inherited a map not of your own making, a destiny built upon the fears of others. The wrong path is seductive because it looks respectable. It is lined with approval, paved with praise, and decorated with promises of comfort. You are told that success lies in following it, that happiness is found at its end, that only the foolish dare to wander elsewhere. And so, you marsupilend, consistent, certain, yet somehow emptier with every step. You tell yourself, this must be right, everyone else is here. But you do not notice that the further you go, the quieter your spirit becomes. It begins subtly. You silence your instincts in exchange for validation. You suppress your curiosity because it makes others uncomfortable. You chase goals that impress others but bore your soul. You call this maturity, responsibility, adulthood. Yet deep within, something begins to erode. The lauder you once knew becomes mechanical. The peace you seek turns elusive. You have not failed. You have been diverted. You are on a road built by the architects of distraction. Who are these architects? They are not villains with malicious intent. They are simply masters of influence, the invisible engineers of society. They build paths that serve systems, not souls. They teach you to value productivity over purpose, image over integrity, noise over thought. They tell you what success looks like, what beauty should be, what dreams are worth pursuing. And because you crave belonging, you accept their design without question. You walk their road believing it leads to greatness, unaware that every step feeds their power while draining your essence. In every age, power survives not by force, but by direction. A ruler need not chain the people if he can control the roads they walk. The clever prince does not imprison minds. He gives them destinations. He offers them ready-made dreams, convincing them that to stray is dangerous, that to question is rebellion, that to follow is virtue. Thus, the masses march proudly toward mediocrity, believing they are fulfilling destiny. The architects smile, for their work is done. Obedience has been achieved without a single drop of blood. You may think this manipulation is only the work of governments or kings, but look closer. The same strategy rules your personal life. You are guided by invisible expectations. The need to be liked, to be seen as successful, to appear whole in a world built on pretense. These subtle pressures shape your every choice, pulling you away from your truth and into conformity. You buy what you do not need. You chase what you do not love. You perform a life that does not belong to you. All because the path rewards you with temporary applause. But applause is not peace. The architects of the wrong path will feed your ego while starving your soul. They will give you comfort while stealing your purpose. They will teach you how to survive, but never how to live. And when the applause fades, you will find yourself in a silence so heavy it feels like loss. Not because you were broken, but because you were deceived. This is the quiet tragedy of modern man. He mistakes motion for meaning. He confuses business with purpose. He believes that as long as he is moving, he must be progressing. But movement without direction is chaos disguised as effort. The wrong path always keeps you moving, always tired, always chasing, always almost there. It convinces you that fulfillment is just one more step away, but that step never comes, because the path was never designed to end. Its purpose is not your arrival. It is your perpetual wandering. To recognize the wrong path is to commit an act of rebellion. It requires silence in a world addicted to noise. It demands that you ask forbidden questions. Who benefits from my exhaustion? Who profits from my confusion? Why do I call this progress when it leaves me hollow? The architects fear such questions because they loosen the chains of illusion. They would rather have you busy than aware, loyal than free, functioning than fulfilled. But the truth is not hidden. It is simply ignored. It is whispered in the moments when your mask slips, when your ambition feels empty, when your victories taste bitter. The wrong path cannot satisfy you because it was never built for your soul. It was built for your obedience. It rewards compliance, not authenticity. And the more you succeed upon it, the further you drift from yourself. When you finally stop walking, when you stand still and look around, you may see how narrow this road truly is. How it keeps you surrounded by others but isolated from yourself. You may notice the signs you missed, the dreams that died quietly, the passions you silenced to fit in, the moments of peace you traded for approval. You may realize that the architects were never external at all, that over time, you became one of them, building walls around your own freedom and calling it safety. The wrong path is not merely a place, it is a mindset. It is every belief you never questioned, every standard you never chose, every compromise you called normal. It is the inheritance of a world that values conformity more than consciousness, submission more than truth. And unless you learn to see its architecture for what it is, you will continue to decorate your own prison and call it a home. When a kingdom loses its crown, a wise ruler does not mourn. He studies. He does not cry for what is lost. He strategizes for its return. In the same way, when you lose yourself, when your purpose feels distant, when your will has turned to dust, you must not sink into despair. You must learn the art of strategic reclamation. The self, once lost, is not found through emotion but through design. The path back to power is not sentimental. It is deliberate. To reclaim yourself, you must think as a prince retaking his throne, not as a beggar seeking pity. This is where most fail. They believe self-discovery is a gentle act, a moment of inspiration, a spark of clarity. But it is not. It is war. It is the rebellion of the mind against years of quiet control. It is tearing down the monuments of lies built within your psyche and rebuilding your kingdom from the ashes. Every man and woman who has ever achieved mastery began first by studying themselves as they would study an adversary. They dissected their weaknesses, not to weep over them, but to understand how they were made. You cannot reclaim what you do not understand. You must know your enemy. And sometimes, that enemy is your own conditioning. The greatest strategy begins with observation. Watch yourself. Observe your reactions, your fears, your impulses, the people you seek approval from. Each of these is a clue, a trace of the invisible strings that still control you. Do not rush to change them. Simply see them for what they are. For the one who sees himself clearly can no longer be manipulated. And when you stop being manipulated, you begin to regain sovereignty over your life. Ask yourself, who profits from my habits? Who gains from my distraction? Who thrives on my dissatisfaction? These are not philosophical questions. They are strategic ones. You have been trained to react, not to respond. To seek pleasure, not purpose. To chase validation, not truth. Reclaiming yourself begins when you take back control of your reactions, when you decide that no one else, not the world, not your past, not your emotions, commands your direction. Most people try to heal by running toward comfort. They drown in affirmations, in positive illusions, in soft words that soothe but never solve. But Machiavelli would tell you, comfort is the enemy of clarity. The self is not reclaimed in ease, it is reforged in confrontation. You must face the part of you that has been hiding beneath layers of excuses and fear. That confrontation is painful, yes, but it is the only honest form of self-rescue. The mind must become a strategist. You must plan your rise as a ruler plans his campaign, one step at a time, each movement intentional. If your habits betray you, redesign them. If your environment poisons you, alter it. If your thoughts weaken you, challenge them until they break. The act of reclaiming the self is not spiritual poetry, it is strategic rebellion. It is taking your mind off autopilot and seizing the controls with both hands. Consider this: every time you say, I can't, you reinforce a wall around your own potential. Every time you act out of fear, you surrender a piece of your kingdom. But when you pause, when you analyze the thought before obeying it, you begin to shift the balance of power. You dethrone the imposter, that false voice that has ruled your mind for years. And slowly your true self begins to reemerge. This process is not a single revelation, it is a campaign. You will lose battles. You will fall back into old ways. But the strategist does not retreat in shame, he retreats to replan. You must learn to think like that, to evolve, to strike again with greater precision. You must be both the ruler and the rebel of your inner world. There will come moments of silence, when you begin to hear your own thoughts for the first time without interference. Those moments are sacred. That is when your strategy begins to crystallize. You will start to recognize what is truly yours, your instincts, your passions, your calling, and what was simply installed in you by others. In that moment, you are no longer a servant to your past, you are an architect of your future. Reclaiming the self requires discipline more than inspiration. It asks you to live by design, not default. It demands you become ruthless with distraction, selective with energy, and deliberate with purpose. The true self cannot thrive in confusion. It requires structure, strategy, order, not to confine you, but to empower you. The mind that has no direction becomes the prey of others, but the mind that knows its aim becomes ungovernable. There is a reason rulers study war and philosophers study silence. Both teach control. Control is not dominance over others. It is mastery over one's own will. It is the ability to act with intention rather than impulse. That is the mark of a reclaimed self. Not perfection, but precision. You no longer react to life as a victim of fate. You move through it as a strategist of destiny. Do not seek healing as though you are broken. Seek alignment as though you are returning to command. You were not made to wander endlessly seeking approval. You were made to rule the territory of your own mind. When you learn to observe yourself without judgment, to design your habits with clarity, to direct your energy with purpose, the illusion of powerlessness begins to dissolve. You become your own guide, your own ruler, your own strategist. Not because you found yourself, but because you built yourself in. There comes a moment in every life when comfort becomes poison. You feel it not as pain, but as numbness. A quiet erosion of your purpose, a fading of the flame that once burned behind your eyes. You tell yourself you are tired, overworked, misunderstood, when in truth, you are simply disconnected from clarity. You are walking through fog, mistaking confusion for complexity, mistaking uncertainty for depth. But understand this, rebirth begins the moment clarity returns, and clarity today, my friend, demands ruthlessness. Ruthless clarity is not gentle. It does not whisper affirmations, it dismantles illusions. It does not stroke your ego, it confronts your deception. To see clearly, you must first be willing to destroy everything that is false, even if what is false once felt sacred. Every false belief, every hollow ambition, every borrowed dream must be exposed to the light of reason. This is not cruelty. It is surgery. You do not save the patient by comforting the disease. You save them by cutting it out. The world teaches you to heal softly, to forgive endlessly, to accept everything, to make peace with what hurts you. But Machiavelli would tell you, peace is not always a virtue. Sometimes, peace is surrender. The man who wishes to rise must be willing to disrupt the order that keeps him small. He must wage war against the illusions that chain him. Illusions of who he should be, what success must look like, what love should feel like. Without destruction, there is no transformation. Without clarity, there is no power. The rebirth of the self is not a spiritual accident. It is an act of will. It begins when you look at your life with unflinching honesty. When you admit what is working and what is rotting. You must be able to say, this dream no longer serves me. This relationship no longer grows me. This belief no longer defines me. Clarity is born from truth, and truth is often brutal. But only the brave endure it. Most people are afraid to see clearly because clarity exposes their complicity. It reveals the ways they have betrayed themselves. The moments they stayed silent when they should have spoken. The years they played small for the comfort of others. The countless time they mistook distraction for destiny. The fog is safer, softer. It allows them to blame fate instead of choice. But the one who seeks rebirth must dare to step into the light, knowing it will reveal not only the beauty of who they are, but the decay of who they've been. Clarity is ruthless because it removes excuses. It strips away the comforting lie that life is happening to you. It reminds you that you are the architect of your state, the designer of your prison, the author of your path. When you see that clearly, you can no longer hide the illusion of helplessness. You begin to move differently. Less like a victim, more like a ruler reclaiming his throne. And yet, do not mistake ruthlessness for cruelty toward yourself. True clarity is not self-hatred, it is self-respect. It is the refusal to tolerate your own deception. It is looking in the mirror and saying, no more half-truths. No more pretending, no more excuses disguised as circumstances. You do not owe your old self loyalty, you owe your future self liberation. When you begin to live with ruthless clarity, something remarkable happens. You stop seeking validation. You no longer chase the opinions of others, for you see how fickle and powerless they are. You stop playing roles that win applause but cost your peace. The noise of the world fades, and for the first time, you begin to hear your own voice. It does not beg, it does not doubt. It commands. Clarity makes your path narrow, but it makes your steps unstoppable. You will lose many things. False friends, empty routines, comforting illusions. But you will gain everything that truly belongs to you. You will begin to act not from fear, but from knowledge. You will no longer be manipulated by promises of belonging or threats of rejection. You will choose your alliances carefully, your words deliberately, your silence strategically. In the rebirth through clarity, you learn that strength is not in resistance but in discernment. Knowing what deserves your energy and what does not. Most people waste their power fighting meaningless battles because they lack clarity. They swing swords in the dark, exhausting themselves against shadows. But once your vision sharpens, you stop reacting to everything that moves. You act only when it matters. You strike with purpose, not impulse. That is the discipline of a reborn mind. The world will call you cold for being clear. They will accuse you of arrogance for knowing your worth, of detachment for refusing to suffer unnecessarily. Let them. For they speak from the comfort of confusion, and you no longer belong to that kingdom. You have chosen sight over slumber, command over chaos. You are no longer seduced by the drama of indecision. You move with precision because clarity has become your weapon. Ruthless clarity burns away falsehood, and in that fire, what is real remains. You will find that beneath all the masks and performances, you were never broken, only buried. The rebirth is not about becoming someone new. It is about stripping away everything that is not you. The process is not gentle, because truth rarely is. But once you emerge, the world no longer dictates your path. You no longer stumble through fog or beg for direction. You become your own compass, guided not by noise, but by undeniable knowing. And that knowing is not loud. It is quiet, steady, unwavering. It does not argue. It does not plead. It simply is. When you reach that state, you will understand that clarity was never the end of suffering. It was the end of confusion. You will see that you did not need to be fixed, healed, or saved. You only needed to see clearly enough to remember who you always were beneath the lies you learned to live by. Look closely, and you will see the truth that has always been before you. You are not broken. You are not defective. You are not the sum of your failures, nor the product of another's expectations. What has troubled you? What has left you hollow? What has made you doubt your worth? It was never your flaw. It was the path you were walking. A path designed for obedience, for distraction, for conformity, not for your greatness. Every whisper of doubt, every pang of dissatisfaction, every restless night was not a punishment, but a signal. Your spirit was warning you that the road you were following did not belong to you. You were misaligned, misdirected, but never broken. And now the choice has returned to you. To continue wandering a road built by others, or to step into your own sovereignty and claim the life you were meant to live. Reclaim yourself with strategy. Observe yourself with ruthless honesty. Cut away the illusions, the false loyalties, the borrowed dreams that have held you captive. Do not seek comfort where there is none. Seek clarity. Step into the fire of truth and allow it to forge the self you were always meant to be. This is not healing. This is awakening. This is mastery. When you act with deliberate intention, when you align your mind, heart, and actions with your true path, you will realize that everything you thought was broken was merely waiting for direction. You will see that your power has never left you. It was only buried beneath the debris of the wrong path. You are not lost. You are not weak. You are inevitable. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you choose your own road, the world will no longer dictate your destiny. You will move with precision, act with purpose, and live with the clarity that only the self-directed possess. Remember this, the path shapes the man, not the flaw. The confusion is temporary, but the alignment is permanent. You are not broken because you were never meant to be. You were meant to find yourself, claim your authority, and walk the path that no one else could ever define for you. Rise, decide, move, and in doing so, understand finally, you were never broken. You were only following the wrong path.